Maybe I ought to put my purse down. Give the size of the tires. Liquid muscle engaged. Jack stands off the ground. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Well, on today's episode, we're gonna get started on Noisy Cricket, finally. So first thing on the agenda for me is going to be this rear end. It currently has an 8 3/4 case in it, which is cool, but it's just not what I'm wanting. What I want to do is ultimately get Homer's 9 1/4 rear end modified to fit this car. And some of you are probably like, why would you swap out an 8 3/4 for a 9 1/4? Well, just to be completely honest with you, I have absolutely beat the dog stuffings out of these 9 1/4 rear ends, and they've never, ever let me down. They're a good, durable rear end, good, durable gears, and they perform super well with the power that we are putting to them, if that makes sense. So I guess, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and get Noisy Cricket jacked up, get this 8 3/4 case and all that rolled out. We're going to clean up this rear end, get the leaf springs and all that jazz off of it. And we're going to go ahead and roll it up underneath Noisy Cricket and see what we got to do. So this is Buster Radio Garage. Let's get after it. All right, first things first, let's get this thing up in the air. And, oh, my bad. Get some jack stands underneath it so we can get this rear end loose and get it out of here. All right, cool. As you guys know, Noisy Cricket already has subframe connectors. So you gotta love that for extra spots to put a jack. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run my jack stands back here at the curvature of the frame rail, right here beside the torque boxes, get it good up in the air as far as we can safely, and then we're gonna go ahead and unbolt the back of the leaf springs, take out these U-bolts and just roll this thing right down the springs and on out. And then we'll bring the 9 1/4 over after we get it cleaned up, roll it right back in, up, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, guys, I want to show you something really quick, and this could actually save your life. This is why you need to be like really aware of your surroundings. So I got both my jack stands put in and went over and just double checked everything real quick, and this is what I found. So you see how my jack stand's off the ground here? In the process of putting that stand in, it actually tilted this one a little bit. Now, if you weren't paying attention and seen that, you could get up under here moving stuff around, and then ultimately this one would collapse. That one would go with it, all in a matter of a split second, and that's gonna be the end of you. So just like, I do play around in this shop, I really do, but you know, nothing's worth your life. So make sure you check that out and fix it. Just more what I'm saying is make sure you know, be aware of your surroundings is what I'm saying. Boom, there we go, all fixed. All right, let's get back to work. All right, very cool. There we go, guys. So I've got the car up about the angle I want, and I think that'll be enough room to drop the rear end out and roll it out of here. Now, you guys have been here for a while. You've seen me do this a million times. Even though I have jack stands under a vehicle, I always have a jack, not holding a whole ton of weight, but it'll always be up against the surface I'm working on. And the reason I do this, it gives me an out, right? And what I mean by that is, if a jack stand fails or a combination of jack stands fail, that jack is going to be there to hold one section of the car up in the air, right? Kind of gives you a way out, versus if the jack stands fail and it just falls all directly on top of you, you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. If you have a jack there holding up in one area, keeping the car suspended, if you will, if the one side of the jack stand fails, hopefully that you're not under that area solely, and part of you, or not most of you, is out in the area in the clear with the jack. It's just kind of a backup plan. So, you know, just food for thought. That's what I do here. Not saying you should do that. Don't ever take my recommendations for anything. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations. But that's what I do here, is just kind of a backup plan. So anyway, now that that's said, let's go ahead and get some liquid muscle on these bolts to help free them up. And while that's working over here on Noisy Cricket, I'm going to go over here and clean up on this 9 1/4. Get the leaf springs, get the U-bolts, get all the brake lines, all that jazz off, and then we're going to swap them. Liquid muscle engaged. Get all these good and doped up. Don't want to be fighting that jazz. We'll go ahead and get this side here, so we're just not fighting a bunch of jazz, getting all that cleaned up. So essentially what I'm going to do is get these bolts out, pull these keepers out, drop these springs down, get those U-bolts out up here, and then just try to roll this rear end right on out of here. Then we'll roll the new one right back in and be done with it. All right, cool, guys. We made some pretty good progress. So I've got the 9 1/4 all cleaned up, got all the brake lines and all this jazz off here. Still left the perches on for now until I figure out where we're going to have to put our new perches. Then I'll cut these off and clean them up. And then over here, I've got everything unbolted. So we're gonna go ahead and beat these U-bolts off and then get the rear end loose. We'll get these bolts out and roll this old girl out of here. Alrighty then. I've got the rear end supported here at the jack. Maybe I ought to put my purse down. Come on now. There we go. There we go. Now we're cooking with Crisco. What's a booger doing this and holding the camera? All right, cool beans. So we got this bracket out of the way now. Got the U-bolts off. Got this clear. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same with the other side over there. Then we'll get these bolts out, and in theory, this spring section should lay down. We can roll this old girl out of here, and then we'll test the 9 1/4. Good deal, Lucille. All right, cool guys. We got everything disconnected. Those shocks might get in the way. They're still attached at the top, but I think in theory I should be able to lower this rear end down low enough to just pull it on past them. So let's see if we can get this thing out of here. Go down nice and easy like here. Well, come on. All right, here we go. She's down on the ground, sitting on top of my drill. I'll kick that out of the way. We'll get it out of here, stuff in the corner. Maybe we'll use it somewhere else for something else. I seriously doubt it. I think that's a 741 case. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, I'm not going to use it for anything that we've got going on right now. So let me get this out. We'll get that 9 1/4 over here, see what we got to do, if we got to narrow it or if it's going to fit or what we got to change. If I got to, I can go get some new perches. We'll get those put on the rear end, weld them in, so on and so forth. But anywho, let's see what we got real quick. All right, big boy, come on out of here. You ain't getting my fingers. Come on. There we go. All right, cool guys, check this out. We're not too far off. Okay, so here's the 8 3/4 case that just come out of Noisy Cricket. And here's the 9 1/4 case that was in Homer. And we are, now you're gonna have to forgive the size of the tires, right? I believe this one here, I'm gonna have to measure it. It's probably about 1.5 inches more narrow than the 9 1/4, which is fine. I'm not too concerned with that. So what I think I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna go ahead and try to cut these perches off of the 9 1/4 rear. And then we have perches on the Noisy Cricket that we can test with. Because I'm going to be 100% honest with you, these springs are junk. They're absolutely terrible. I'm not going to use them for anything. So we're going to get these springs out. We'll see what they are and we'll order new springs. Just for testing purposes, I think this 9 1/4 is going to work out perfect. And as you guys know, we rebuilt this. This thing is stout as all get out. So we'll wire wheel it all back down, get rid of these brake drums, get rid of all that crap. Repaint it, and it'll be a nice, sturdy, dependable rear end for Noisy Cricket. So we'll get a hold of our friends at Energy Suspension, get some new bushings, get all that jazz. I wish I could really use these springs. These things are really, really good springs. Maybe we'll pull one of these out and compare them to these. Maybe able to use this setup. I'm not 100% for sure, but we'll figure it out when we get there. If not, we'll go up there and get a hold of our friends at Summit and order some new springs. So, anywho, let me go ahead and get these shocks out of here, get these springs off. We'll test this out because we've got a mountain of wire wheeling to do under there. And I'd prefer to do that on the lift if absolutely possible because I do not want to be rolling around on the ground when I've got that. All right, guys, I got the 9 1/4 drug over here. I went ahead and took them big 275s off because, I mean, it's just going to be a lot easier to try to maneuver under there with all that rubber. So I just put some bare wheels on I had over there in the corner. So they're sitting right there. So I guess my next plan is try to weeble wobble this thing up there, a little bit of jiggle wiggle. Get it somewhat-ish centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to kind of see what it looks like. And then once I get everything kind of roughly, you know, hand tightened back up in there, we'll throw them back on to see what that looks like. Ultimately, that's the size of tire we run around with in the back on our cars, right? 275 60-15s. Then we'll do like 215 60-15s or something on the front. Give it a little bit of stance. And then, if that works, we're going to take off on out of here. That'll be in another episode. We're going to get some new perches, new springs, all that jazz. And in the meantime, while we're waiting on that, we'll paint them underneath the rear half of the car, get that cleaned up, you know, undercoat it and all that jazz. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's try to get this rear end in. All right, guys, there it is. It is really close. I mean, I'm sure I've got just some final measurement to do, but I mean, it turned out really good. I mean, we're still right at our wheel wells on both sides. This rear end was only like 1 1/4 inches wider than that 8 3/4 over there, which is fine. What we can do in our tires, we can just run a little bit different offset to bring them in because we're going to have roughly 4 inches of room we're going to be able to play with it a little bit on each side, you know, before we're hitting the springs. But anyway, so now my goal is I'm going to drag this rear end back out and cut these old perches off, get them out of the way, and then we'll throw it back up in here and hang it, see kind of what we look at, and then we'll order some new springs, new perches, new bushings, all this jazz. And in the meantime, we're waiting on that. We'll get this up in the air and get all this cleaned up, painted, undercoated, all that goodness. Because we're going to have to make some brackets for some new gator cutters. And what that is when, you know, the skins come flying off the tires, they'll hit them cutters rather than hitting the body. But anyway, I'm really, really happy with that. And then once we get everything painted, we'll hang it up, get our final measurements. We'll get our angle from the rear end to the transmission, make sure we're good there, see what that percentage needs to be. And then we're going to be in there like swimwear. So anyway, let me get this pulled back out. We'll cut these old perches off. We'll hang it, kind of see what it looks like up in the air. Might even throw those back on there just to kind of see what it looks like on the car. And then we'll go from there. Cool. All right, cool guys, sweet. So we got this perch off. I went ahead and took the cutting wheel and cut it out in chunks, and then I took grinding wheel, kind of like you do when you got ugly welds like me. You know, you make them pretty that way. Got it kind of cleaned up here a little bit, and then I took a flat disc and then cleaned that up a little bit more. So I don't want to get down into this too deep. So I think I might just try to pretty up a little bit more, and then we'll paint it, because the new perch is going to go like right here-ish anyway. I could take a little bit of JB Weld and fill these in and then sand it down, make it look buttery smooth. I may just do that. I'm not 100% for sure yet. But anywho, I'm going to go ahead and get this perch cut off and do the same thing. But I'm not going to bore you with watching that twice. Check that out. And then we'll get it up in there and do a fitment, see what it looks like, throw some big tires on it, see what it looks like, see if we need to have it narrowed. I seriously doubt it. But we're going to find out one way or the other, right? So anyway, let me get back to work. I know the girls are wanting to skin out of here and go shopping today. And you guys been here at this channel long enough. When the girls are ready to go shopping, I shut down just like that and take them. You know, get them out for the night, let them browse the town of, you know, our population of a whole 700 people. But anyway, let's keep getting back to work. All right, guys, we're back from running around with the girls. As you can see, it's, good and dark out there now. It's about right around 11 o'clock at night, which isn't that bad. We went ahead and got the old perches removed. They're ground off and gone. Again, we'll worry about prettying this up later. So the next step is going to go ahead and roll it back up under the car, see if we can get it in position, get the springs just kind of rough mounted up underneath the car so we can sit where everything sits. And then my last goal for tonight is to go ahead and try to get a set of wheels on here and see kind of like what the stance looks like. And then I'm gonna have to run up and get online, get up there at Summit and get a bunch of stuff ordered. I need to get a hold of Energy, get some bushings. I need to get springs. I need to get new perches. I need to get all kinds of good stuff. But the main goal today was to see if this 9 1/4 would work and see if we can get it in place. So let's go ahead and finish that up real quick. All right, there we go, guys. A fully mocked up 9 1/4. Now everything is just kind of snugged up. It's not real tight because obviously I'm gonna have to take this in and out a half a dozen times because we're gonna get new springs, new shocks, new perches, new keepers. Everything under here is gonna be new. We're gonna take that rear end out, buff it down, repaint it. Might do something crazy on colors, which will go with the new wrap that TNF Signs is designing, which will absolutely blow your mind. This has been a very cool project today, so I'll tell you what, let me get these tools picked up real quick and we'll lower this thing down and see what it looks like. Now, as you've seen on the springs there, we got about 3.5, 4 inches on each side for some offset options, which would be really cool. We get a lot of meat shoved up underneath the car, and we'll have a little bit of meat on the outside of the car, which always looks really cool. Maybe we go some 45s or some 50s. That'd be sick. And then, of course, when we do burnouts, we'll do our skinnies. But anyway, let me get these tools cleaned up, and we're gonna lower this thing down. I cannot wait to see it. All right, cool. All right, guys, you ready for this? It's been about a half an hour for me, but literally a millisecond for you. It's about 2:30 in the morning, but this thing turned out epic. Right now, I've got Homer's wheels on there. We're gonna have to find Noisy Cricket his own, but check this out. Boom, that looks sick. 9 1/4 rear. We've got just a little bit over, which is just about perfect. I absolutely love it. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is gonna have to come out a half a dozen times because we're gonna have to get, once we get the engine and transmission in, we're gonna have to line up the rear, so we can get the drive shaft right. And then I'm gonna take all this out to put new springs, new perches, new suspension bushings. I've got to paint under there, got to line it. All kinds of stuff. We got to get room for a bash bar. We've got a lot to do under there. So this is gonna come in and out, but I think it turned out absolutely amazing. I know it's too dark to see that, but the stance is sick. I love it. So you guys tell me what you think. Do you think we ought to put big old fatties on the back of this and maybe get some blocks and lift it up and give it like a 70s or an 80s stance, get that rear end way up in the air? What do you think we ought to do? And also put down in the comments what kind of wheels you'd like to see on here. Do you like the Homer style wheels, which, I'm a huge fan of? Or do you want to go with some real sick in-your-face chrome wheels? Let me know in the comments what you want to do. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this up on the lift. We're going to get the front tires off. We're going to see what we got there because he is either going to get TBM brakes or Willwoods. We generally run with Willwood, but I might try the TBMs just out for craps and giggles. But anyway, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. It's been a long day. Been down here about 19 hours today. And I know that seems like a lot, just doing what I did. But, I took the girl shopping, all that jazz. And I kind of clean up as I go kind of thing. But anyway, I appreciate you watching. We'll catch you next time. BRG out.